Hi, my name is Lizzie. I'm originally from Connecticut, but I currently live in New York City. I'm 27 years old and I really enjoy running now. I was a college athlete, a college diver, and post COVID have picked up running marathons. When I was a teenager, actually, I found out that I had thyroid antibodies and just had to monitor them throughout the years. I wasn't having any issues. I was just a very competitive athlete and was training with Team USA, and just all levels were monitored, including a full blood work panel. And so once I knew that we had the antibodies, there was nothing really to do at that point. I got all my levels checked. Everything seemed, pretty normal. And it was kind of just, okay, monitor as we go on. Fast forward, my sophomore year of college, was very tired all the time, was needing to take naps a couple times, and found out that my thyroid levels were out of whack and went on thyroid medication. I was on medication for 6 or 7 years. And then in the summer of 2023, actually went off my medication and found out that my thyroid was functioning as it should be, and I no longer needed to be on medication. Fast forward then to summer of 2024. Everything had been going well. Didn't really have any symptoms. I was definitely feeling a little bit more tired, but kind of chalked it up to be, I'm working out twice a day. I'm training for marathons. That's life. Working in an office is what it is. So I actually went to a doctor, and initially came out of that doctor basically with her saying, you need to take iron pills, and left that appointment. A physical exam was not done. Nothing happened. So my mom and I kind of left feeling, all right, didn't love that answer. Don't feel like, everything has been looked at. So 2 weeks later, actually, the middle of July, I saw a new doctor in New York City, and she did a full new patient exam, including a physical exam, and said, how long have you had this nodule for? 2 days later, did a biopsy, and the following week, it came back as thyroid carcinoma. In that moment, I did not know what to do. I was sitting in my apartment at my desk when I read the message, and I immediately just burst into tears. And it wasn't tears as in, why me, why this? It was just, why now? I've had been seeing doctors my whole life for my thyroid, and had seen one 3 weeks prior, and none of this came out. And so it was more so than, okay, now I know this is happening. Now, what do I need to do? And immediately called my parents, called my brothers, told them the news, but then said, all right, where can I find the best specialist to go to? Where can I get in to see doctors for consults? And how can I take the best step forward? I was fortunate enough to get appointments with 3 different doctors, in New York City. All had very different approaches to what they would do. And so some wanted to take out only half my thyroid. Some wanted to take out the full thyroid and all my lymph nodes. Some wanted to kind of go into it saying, we'll see what it looks like once we get in there. I didn't leave any of those being like, I know exactly which doctor I want to go to, just because I felt like every approach was slightly different. I feel like I had learned a ton just from listening to them. And then also, I had a friend actually who went through this previously and was able to talk to her on her approach. And her surgery was a bit different, but it was just very helpful to get kind of a baseline knowledge of those questions to ask and what I should be looking out for when I meet with these doctors. So I saw 3 doctors in New York, and then I actually have a very good friend who was being treated in Houston and was lucky enough to get into Houston and ultimately had surgery at MD Anderson. Everything happened very quickly. So I only found out about my diagnosis on July 31st, went down for a consult on August 20th and had surgery on August 28th. So I was completely cancer free, thankfully, 4 weeks after my diagnosis, which is crazy to say. But went down there, met with the doctor, did blood work and ultrasound, and a CT scan. And during my ultrasound, actually, they saw a couple lymph nodes that they didn't like the look of. So actually did a biopsy of the lymph nodes as well. But everything came back kind of as they expected. And then it was sort of, okay, now with the knowledge that we have, what approach do we take? We went into surgery saying, okay, we're going to go with just removing the right side of the thyroid. And if anything else looks super abnormal, we will take the necessary steps to remove it. In the end, I actually only had the right side of my lymph node removed, the right side of my thyroid, removed, as well as my central compartment lymph nodes and 2 right lateral lymph nodes. Day of surgery, I flew down to Houston the day before, stayed in a hotel overnight, and woke up the next morning, ready to kind of take this on. I was like, I know exactly what we're doing right now, and I'm ready just to kind of get to the other side. My parents were both there with me, as well as one of my brothers. We went for a nice long walk that morning. We walked around Houston, saw Rice University, kind of just, took it as a normal morning. Got back to our hotel room and actually got a call from my doctor and said, hey, are you available to come in now? I'm ready. And I said, oh, great. Okay. So I actually got in 3 hours before my scheduled surgery, which was great. And they were awesome. They comforted me. They told me exactly what to expect, asked me why I was nervous. And, I think just the whole idea of surgery in general is nerve-wracking to some. And I've had it in the past. So I was pretty ready for it, but it was really nice having a team that really was there for me, and really wanted the best for me and the best outcome. So surgery lasted, I believe, 3 hours. I was in the recovery room and ended up staying overnight in the hospital just that first night following surgery, and was in a hotel then for 2 nights after surgery. And so I was in Houston for 4 days total, and I had a drain put in during my surgery. My drain was removed, and then I was able to fly home the next day. In terms of actual recovery after that, I was definitely a bit sore and a bit in pain. I wasn't able to do anything for 2 weeks following surgery, which, being the athlete that I am, it was very tough not to do anything, but obviously knew that I wanted the best for my recovery. And I had in my mind, the first thing I said to my doctor when I found out about this was, can I still run the Chicago Marathon? And the Chicago Marathon was 6 weeks exactly after surgery. And they said to me, you're not going to be in your best shape, but if you want to cross the finish line, you can. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind the whole time throughout my diagnosis, my surgery, my recovery. Everything was, I want to get to the finish line of the Chicago Marathon. And I actually was able to finish, and I did PR by 6 minutes. So it was a really exciting time, but I think also it's something that helped drive me kind of to get through recovery as fast as possible and as strong as possible. I think one of the good things about my cancer diagnosis and the type of cancer that I had is that it is, there's a surgery cure. And not everyone is as fortunate to have such an outcome. But once I learned that, I was pretty confident that the doctors were going to do their job and they were going to remove the cancer. I came out of surgery, and once we had determined that if the lymph nodes looked abnormal, they were going to take them out. I came out of surgery and they said we actually did take out 2 lymph nodes. In that moment, I was a little bit uneasy just because I didn't know whether or not that was just to be safe or if those lymph nodes were going to come back also with cancer. So in that exact moment, I said, okay, if they do come back, we will readdress what next steps we need to take. But if they come back negative, then that's the best sign and the best news that I could hear. So all of my lymph nodes actually came back negative. And so that was kind of a moment where I was like, my doctor did the job that he was supposed to do. And I am so forever grateful for kind of every step of the way, because if I didn't go to that initial doctor, if they didn't do every physical exam, if I kind of came out of that with the answers that I needed, I probably would never have gone to another doctor and I never would have found this. After 3 weeks, I got blood work done. And after another 3 weeks, I also got blood work done just to continue monitoring. So I have my endocrinologist here in New York City that I will see regularly for continued monitoring. And then I will do an ultrasound and see the doctor in Houston every 6 months for now. And probably can reduce that cadence to once a year as time goes on and the monitoring continues. I had so many incredible people surrounding me, both right at my diagnosis and following my diagnosis. So initially, when I first found out, I actually was going on vacation the following day with 5 of my best friends. And I immediately called my parents and said, "Do I not go?" And they said, "Well, what's going to change? Nothing is going to happen between now and Monday. We're not seeing any doctors. Why wouldn't you go?" And so I said, "Okay, I guess I'll go." And so I told those 5 of my close friends, just so that they were aware. So they knew if something was off, if I had to answer a phone call, whatever, they knew it was going on. And I think that was the best decision that I could have, because they became kind of my support system right from the beginning. Constantly followed up with me, checked in, asked how I was doing. Every doctor that I went to, they said, "Do you need anything? Do you want me to take you?" Luckily, my parents are very close, so they were able to come with me. But it was just very nice to have kind of that group around me, knowing what was going on, but also not every single person around me. I had told my work what happened and what was going on, just so that they were aware when I had doctor's appointments scheduled, what if I was going to be out for a little bit, what was happening. But then I think after my surgery, so as time went on throughout those 4 weeks before surgery, a couple other people found out. I told a couple others, just those close to me, which was nice to have a group. But then actually the day after my surgery, I actually posted an Instagram kind of talking about my journey and just how I couldn't recommend more going to a doctor if you feel something is off, speaking up for yourself, kind of being that self advocate, because that's ultimately how I found out that I had cancer. And from doing so, I actually had so many people reach out, people that I didn't even think followed me on Instagram, knew who I was, strangers being like, "I'm here for you. I want to help you. How can I provide any guidance, anything?" And it actually was just shocking to see the support that people really gave me. And I think having that really helped me kind of get over that finish line, and kind of, it was a constant just, "Hey, how are you doing?" Or, "Hey, would love to go for a walk. Hey, heard about this, don't know you, but just so you know, I'm thinking of you." And I think that constant, just like checking in and people reaching out, was just something that it's really irreplaceable, and you don't feel until you actually go through something like this. Training for a marathon starts 16 to 20 weeks before the marathon. So I started training at the beginning of June and found out about my cancer diagnosis the end of July. So I had 8 good weeks of training, felt great, was going into August, peak marathon training season, and all of a sudden this hit. Initially, I think it really put a damper on my motivation to run, just because I was like, well, if I'm not going to be able to run the marathon, I don't want to go run 20 miles today. I need to focus on my health. I need to do research on the doctors. There's other things I need to prioritize. My brother, though, is actually also a big runner and said, "No, I want to run with you. Come with me just for a few miles. It'll help, keep you in your routine and keep your mind off of everything." So he kind of was the one that kept pushing me along, and kept me in training at least for, a few miles here and there. Obviously, training was not what it was supposed to be. Even before my surgery, I just had other things I wanted to focus on, other things I needed to spend my time on, and running didn't seem like that should be my priority right now. But I kept running a bit, and following surgery and following my 2-week recovery, committed to actually wanting to run a marathon. I had told a couple of my close friends, I said, it's kind of crazy, but I think I'm actually going to do it. And they were like, why? And I said, because for me, that's going to just boost my self-confidence and know that I can do hard things. And just because there's a bump in the road doesn't mean, it's life-changing and everything has to stop and your routine has to go away. And so I told a couple people, and I kind of held myself accountable to it. And no, was my training anywhere near what it was supposed to be? But I did my best, and I got to the start line of the marathon, and I said, you know what? It is what it is, and I'm going to get to the end. And I kept telling my parents, they were like, how long do you think it's going to take you? I was like, I don't know, 6 hours. They were like, Lizzie, no, it's not going to take you 6 hours. But I just knew that if anything were to happen, I still was going to get to that finish line. And I saw them at mile 5, and I had the biggest smile on my face. And all I wanted to do was run and hug them. And then again at mile 13 and mile 21. And at 21, that's when it hit. And I was like, this hurts and this is hard, but I'm going to do it. And I use this kind of as my motivation just to keep pushing me. And I remember crossing the finish line, and I just immediately burst into tears. And it was every kind of built up emotion over the past 6 weeks that just really let loose. And it was like happy tears. It was just like, things happen, but you can come back from them and you can do things even better. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I think I need to let my body heal and kind of, compartmentalize what I have gone through in the past couple months, and just, be okay with not running all the time, doing other things. But I've run 3 of the majors so far. I've done Chicago now, New York, and Berlin. And I hope to do Tokyo, Boston, and London and complete all 6 of the major marathons. It's not easy, no matter what type of cancer you have, no matter what type of illness you have, but having other people there to support you and having kind of someone to bounce questions off of. I didn't know that so many people that I am connected to also had thyroid cancer. It was only until I shared my story on Instagram that people reached out being like, hey, I wish I had known. I went through it this many years ago. And so many people now have said, I fear I might have something. I've had Hashimoto's. Can you help me, connect me to a doctor? Or just like any voice that I can help and anything that I can do to help someone have the same outcome that I had. That's my goal. Self-advocacy. I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you don't feel like if you have a gut feeling that something is off, stand up for yourself, go to a doctor, reach out to someone. Don't just be complacent with it and say, okay, I guess that's it. I guess my feelings aren't valid. I guess I'm fine. I guess it is what it is, because you know yourself, you know your body, and it's probably not. And if I had just gone to that one doctor and not the next, I still would not have found my cancer. And the second thing I would say is be there for others. You really never know what someone is going through. And because I only told so few people, the second that my story got out, everyone was like, oh my God, I didn't know. I can't believe that. How are you? And at that moment, everyone was very kind and supportive, but you really never know what someone's going through. And so if someone sounds like they're having a bad day, something doesn't seem right, be a helpful hand, kind of reach out and just be kind to people, because there's always something going on. And there's so many stories that not everyone knows.